We're Chelsea and Alphonse, and we're traveling across all 48 states in our converted 2001 Chevy Express school bus, and we're here to bring you along for the adventure. So come along as we see barren deserts, high altitudes, frigid winters, and the occasional bus repair as we journey across America. So right now, Alphonse and I are at Old Orchard Beach in Maine. We got our coffees, Green Mountain Coffee, which is a big coffee company up here in the Northeast. And as you can see, it's not very sunny, it's pretty dreary, and the waters are 60 degrees. We went in them and they are quite cold. We were considering swimming, but no, we'll wait until we get to the warmer southern beaches. Lobster Pool in New Hampshire. It's super close to Massachusetts though. Our GPS got confused and she was like, welcome to Massachusetts. But we're still in New Hampshire. We're gonna get the fried lobster tail, and Alphonse would always come here with his family, or I guess what, 2 times?
Like 3 or 4, I don't know.
Oh, okay, so 3 or 4 times. And he really liked it, so we get to come back. So today we are here at the Cider Hill Farm, and they have apple orchards that you can see up along that hill, and we're gonna check it out. So today we get to go to the Lexington Battle Green, where the Battle of Lexington was fought. And then after that we get to go to Plymouth Rock and the Mayflower II, which is the exact replica of the original Mayflower. They actually have no idea what happened to the original one. They lost records of it in the late 1600s, so that was interesting. But our family line had 3 relatives, blood relatives, on the Mayflower. So there was Stephen Hopkins. There was his daughter Constance, I think is what we think her name is, but we remember. And then Stephen Hopkins had a baby in the womb with his wife Elizabeth Hopkins. And his name's Oceanus because he was born on the ocean, I guess. It's Latin for ocean. So super excited to learn more about my family's history and to walk where they walked literally 400 years ago. This is a memorial to the Lexington Minutemen of 1775. And it says right here, these men gave everything dear in life, yea, and life itself in support of the common cause. And this house right here was actually here during the Battle of Lexington. And it was a public entertainment house. So this monument behind me is where they buried the 7 Minutemen who were shot in the very first battle of the American Revolution on April 19th, 1775. So this building, the Bunker Tavern that we talked about earlier, was where the troops stayed the night, the Lexington militia. And then in the morning, they met the British troops here on the Lexington Battle Green. That's where they're buried. That's where the flagpole is that has to fly 24 hours a day, according to Congress. And there's a little stone of the Minutemen line. So that was really cool. I would rate it like a 10 out of 10. It was really cool. And you know the midnight ride of Paul Revere. So the Midnight Riders, they rode the night of April 18th, 1775. So the night before this skirmish at Lexington, because they had heard that there were like 400 or a lot of troops, hundreds of troops, British troops coming. And so it was Paul Revere, Dawes, and Prescott that actually rode. And Paul Revere didn't even make it. So that poem of the Midnight Ride of Paul Revere, yeah, that's inaccurate. Because he was actually captured. He never made it. It was only Prescott that made it to warn them at the Buckman Tavern where the troops were. Or no, was it? Yeah. And but then also the little skirmish at Lexington, there were never supposed to be shots fired. The British had no intention of shooting. The militia in Lexington had no intention of shooting unless the British shot first. And to this day, no one knows who actually shot the first shot. There are differing accounts, and so they just don't know. So this site right here was where Paul Revere was captured during his midnight ride, and they actually released him, and he was able to make it back to Lexington in time for the little skirmish in Lexington. So this was the house of Major John Buttrick, and he was the one that ordered the colonial army to fire at the British, and now it is known as the shot heard around the world. So here we have the North Bridge, which is where the very first intentional shot against the British was fired, and it is known as the shot heard round the world. This shot instigated 8 years of fighting between the Americans, well, the colonial troops, and Britain. Okay, so we are here, and we're going to go to the historic Patuxent home site, which is where the Native Americans lived. And then we'll go up the path. There's a craft center here, and then a 17th century English village where the Pilgrims lived. All right, so we just watched a short presentation explaining a little bit more about where we are. So there were Native Americans here before the Pilgrims came over in 1620, and they were trading with like England and France and the Europeans. But then there was a really bad epidemic in, I think, 1616, and it completely wiped out, I think it said 70% of the population of all the natives were wiped out, which is just tragic. But the Wampanoag tribe, which was here at the Plymouth Patuxent place that we're going to now, all of them were either gone and died, and the few that survived, they went to other nearby tribes. And so when the Pilgrims came in 1620, and those on the Mayflower, they saw this village that was perfect. It was totally abandoned. It had a great water source. The fields were cleared. It was great. And so they just came on in, and then we'll see their 17th century village that they created themselves and built. And then, so with some history on the Mayflower, there were 102 passengers, and half of them were from the church that felt that the Church of the King, I think it was called the King's Church, that it was just not based on biblical principles, and they wanted to reform, and so they completely split off, and that's why they came here. Wampanoag home. Normally they are covered, but they had it uncovered just to show us what it looks like. So that's the Eel River behind us. It goes into the Atlantic Ocean. And there's 1 canoe, 2 canoe, and 3 canoes. So here in the gift shop we have Mayflower last names for 4 generations. And here's Stephen Hopkins. And here's the Mayflower Compact. And there's Stephen Hopkins. Alright, so here we have the origins. And we have Elizabeth Hopkins right there. She's from London. And all the other Hopkins are from Gloucestershire. We're now entering the 17th century English village. And they of course don't know all the specifics, but they just base it off of, oh, wrong way. They base it off of sources and things that people said and all that. So here is the fort. We're upstairs right now. You can see the cannons go out to the ocean. There it is. And underneath us is actually, they call it the meeting house instead of the church, but it's where the church met. And the pastor, well, pastor of the church, he was an elder called William Brewster, and he came over on the Mayflower, and that was their leader for the meeting house. There's the plantation, 17th century village. No? Why not?
Like, because you would have cooked outside. So this,
oh, I see.
while they cooked on their fire pits during the winter.
I would say a slash to the leg is less deadly than a strike to the head.
This chart shows who the first people were at who the people were at the first Thanksgiving. So 63% were the Pokanokets, and then 37% were English. And then these dots right here, the last 2 rows, are people younger than 18. All of these are older than 18. And then the downward triangles are men, and the upward triangles are women. So the first winter in Plymouth was incredibly brutal, and they lost about half their lives, or half of the pilgrims lost their lives, and they befriended the natives who were there. So there was Samoset, who actually knew English, and then Squanto as well, right here. Tisquantum was actually his real name, but he went by Squanto, and they befriended them, and it helped survive the brutal winters.
Well, that was super fun. So in the 17th century village, we didn't get footage of it or video, but there were 3 like pilgrim women there. One was Anne, and I don't remember the names of the other 2, but Anne told us, or she was grinding corn and all of that. And then one of the other women, she played a game called 3-Man something, but it's kind of like tic-tac-toe. But so you place your pieces, you have 3 pieces, each of you, and then you place your pieces and you try and get 3 in a row, but then you can move the pieces once you're out. And so that was cool. We lost, but it was still fun. And this was with the other woman, and she was telling us about all the hardships, like how someone went overboard. And then she brought up Mrs. Hopkins. I said, "Oh, Elizabeth," and she said, "Yes, like, dear Miss Hopkins had a baby on board." And so I was like, "Oh, Elizabeth, I'm related to her." And so we talked about Oceanus, and it was fun. And then they did a really cool sword fighting demonstration. And yeah, it was really neat. So now we're gonna go to the Mayflower. So here's the meeting house, the first church in Plymouth, where the Pilgrims met. And over there is the Church of the Pilgrimage. Here are the names of all the passengers who died during the first year in the brutal winter. And I don't see Hopkins, any of the Hopkinses anywhere, so they must have all survived. All right, and there's Plymouth Rock over where all the people are. Oh.
Someone's been down here. There's footprints.
Oh, it's actually a lot bigger than I thought.
Yeah.
1620. Alright. So we are about to step on board of the Mayflower 2, which was built in England as an exact replica of the first Mayflower. And it came back here to Plymouth Rock exactly 400 years after the 1620 voyage. Alright, let's get on board. Wow, look at that mast. Alright, so down here is where the Pilgrims were living.
Everything will be kept in barrels. The barrels they use will be about 3 times the size of the ones that we see there.
So this boat down here was the smaller boat that they had on board. So here are some of the pilgrims, or the passengers on the Mayflower. So Elizabeth Hopkins stayed in Plymouth Colony. They had 5 more children, and she actually hosted Samoset. So we were talking with the guy in the Mayflower, and he said that 10%, I think he said 36 million Americans are descended from someone that came over on the Mayflower. But I am sure that that percentage is way lower for people who actually know that they're descended and who they're descended from. So the Mayflower was originally supposed to land by the Hudson River because England wanted to colonize that, and the Dutch also had their eye on it. And apparently the story goes that they couldn't go to the Hudson River because there were just like sandbars and really heavy winds and all of that. So the captain rerouted them to go here in Plymouth. But another version of the story is some people believe that the captain actually got paid off by the Dutch so that they would not go to the Hudson River. So I guess we'll never know. Alrighty friends, we are about to enter state number 30, which is Rhode Island. And what you see right here might be the only thing we do in Rhode Island because there's not much to do here. So we're gonna see if we can find a truck stop to find a sticker, but that's about it.
Alright.
Yay!
Welcome to Rhode Island.
Welcome to Rhode Island.
Yay!
So today we're gonna go to Springfield, Massachusetts, which is where my granny grew up, and then Suffield, Connecticut, which is where my great-grandma grew up. Oh, and we're gonna go to the Suffield Academy, which is where my great-granddad went to school, or my granny's dad. Aw, Connecticut welcomes you.
There it is.
All right, here we go, Suffield Academy.
Turn right onto High Street,
Founded
North
in
Main Street, then turn left to stay on
At this point, they've rebuilt it.
Rooster Hall. This is a church.
Be the church.
Oh, be the church. All right, we're flying through these states. So this is state number 33, which is New Jersey, or also known as New Jersey. So we are here at the New Jersey Botanical Gardens, and right now we're trying to find Alphonse a restroom, but they're all closed, and they said that they were open. Let's try that front door. Yeah, maybe. Okay, maybe there's hope. So that is the Skylands Manor, and we're gonna see if we can get closer.
Or is actually.
Oh, here it is!
You have arrived.
boy, Jersey free!
Since 1952.
Awesome! So we're still in New Jersey, and we just got to the Jersey Freeze. And apparently it's really popular because they even have little markers to stand outside where the line gets long. Here we are in Philadelphia. We're about to get some Philly cheesesteaks.
Your
That's it.
destination is on the left.
Okay.
Maybe some parking in the back.
Right here, look at here.
This is a spot?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Wow. No, this one. Guido steaks. Alright, we are crossing the Delaware River, which is the river that George Washington crossed in that famous painting of him on the boat. And this is state number 34 in our great U.S. adventure. We are here at the Nemours Estate, which is a French chateau. Over yonder is the Temple of Love. And then we have the gardens. Ooh, that's a cool pool. Wow. Here's the Temple of Love.
All right, we're in Pennsylvania, not Philadelphia, today.
Next up.
And we're going to Gettysburg, where a bunch of people died and stuff. So we're gonna go look at that and learn about how they all died and the battle and all that good stuff and history. And yeah, so we're doing that today.
So this is one of the newest monuments that they've built on the Gettysburg land. And what's really neat about it is that these two soldiers, one is from the Union and one is from the Confederate. What a day.
Yeah, we're tired. It's 4 something right now. We didn't do the museum though. We just didn't have enough time. But the bus tour, I would argue, is the highlight overall.
That was cool. It was 2 hours long and the tour guide was so knowledgeable.
Mm-hmm.
He gave so many facts. It was like, wait.
Like the JFK fact was interesting, that this was a place JFK went before he was assassinated.
Yep.
Because Camp David's about 10 miles away. But anyways, yeah, it was super factual. There's too many monuments too, because there's a monument for every
state that was involved.
Every regiment, every like battalion, every
or brigade.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the Battle of Gettysburg, it was, so tomorrow, which is July 1st, 2023, is the 160th anniversary of the Battle of Gettysburg. It was the only battle during the Civil War where the Confederate Army actually outnumbered the Union Army, but it was only for one day before both of them got reinforcements.
Yep. And it was loud enough that the ground shook, because there was 250 Union cannons, and I don't remember the number of Confederate, but it was well over 100.
And there were thousands of troops. Do you remember how many troops on each side? Was it like 70,000? I think 70,000 and 90,000. 90,000 Union, 70,000 Confederate. But that was on the second day when they got reinforcements.
And there was 3,000, I think, total killed.
Yeah.
It was a lot. So they had to build a national cemetery because of the sheer volume of dead Yeah, so they built the National Cemetery about 4 months after the battle, and it was established because the town was overrun with bodies. Like they were everywhere. So the Confederate ones were buried in local cemeteries and fields. To this day, they believe there's as many as 1,000 that they just haven't found. They don't know where they were buried because they were just kind of buried somewhere.
Yeah. But we got to go to the spot where Lincoln did his Gettysburg Address, and right after that, it was in November of 1863. Yes, November of 1863. It was right after that the National Cemetery was
Dedicated.
made. Yeah.
So it's an interesting place. It takes a while to get through. They have very good video. What would
you rate it?
It's probably 10 out of 10. It was super interesting. It was very well preserved. It's very somber, but it's like somber for the right reason. Like it's somber because it's like they really like force you to think of the gravity of this place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would give it a 10 as well out of 10. And the bus tour was really neat. But doing the film in the cyclorama, which is one of the largest paintings, it would span a football field, I think is what they said. And the artist actually included himself in the painting as his signature. He is the army man, like hanging out by a tree with the sword over his lap. So that was cool.
Near the angle.
Yeah, but definitely the film and the cyclorama was really neat, and then the bus tour, and then we walked out to the National Cemetery and where the Gettysburg Address was given.
Went to all the different big monuments, Pennsylvania and whatnot.
Mm-hmm. So today, Alphonse and I are at the battlefield where the Battle of Antietam was fought in mid-September of 1862. This was about a year after the Civil War started, and the Union needed a victory desperately. And Antietam, Abraham Lincoln had this strategy of doing the Emancipation Proclamation to declare that all slaves were free in the southern states, but because they were losing, they were afraid that if he did it at this point, then it would look too desperate. And so Abe Lincoln was waiting for a Union victory, and even though Antietam wasn't technically a victory, it was more a draw, the Confederates did retreat back off of Union land into Virginia. And Abe Lincoln was like, well, that's victory enough for me. And he did the Emancipation Proclamation. Was it 3 months later?
Yep.
3 months later. And that was exactly the battery power that the Union needed, because now it was not just a fight between the North and the South. It was now for freedom and the slaves fighting for their freedom. And over 200,000 slaves actually enlisted not for Antietam, but in the Civil War as a whole. But Antietam was very bloody. It was the single bloodiest battle in the Civil War. Over 20,000 soldiers either lost their lives or were mortally wounded. And it was very tragic. And this war set the stage for the Battle of Gettysburg, which we just went to. So now we're going to go on the auto tour, which takes us to 11 different points of the Battle of Gettysburg. So the white building was Dunkard Church, which is right here. The Confederates were using this as a planning point while the North, or the Union, was coming in from the north. And as you can see, so the church is there, and then that's your view right there, and there's a big hill, and it's really hard for visibility, which is why there were so many dead, is just because of the land and the layout and the topography. So this is the cornfield right here. And the Union Army was marching through, and on the other side, the Confederates were there to greet them. It was one of the bloodiest locations in the entire battle. So here's the cornfield right here. One of the bloodiest battles, only second to Sunken Bridge. And this road that we just came up was one of the battle lines for the cornfield. So Texas was a state with one of the highest casualties, with approximately 850 men and 550 casualties, 82.3% dead. Approaching Bloody Lane, the bloodiest spot in the battle. State number 36, which is West Virginia. So Alphonse and I are at Harper's Ferry in West Virginia, and apparently there's a lot of significance with the Civil War. So we'll go check it out. This here at Harper's Ferry is where they created weapons and muskets, and then it had a federal armory both here and Springfield, Massachusetts, which is where Granny grew up. So we've learned some more history about Harper's Ferry and its significance. So in 1859, a white man named John Brown rallied 21 men and raided the federal armory. He succeeded in taking it for 36 hours until the Marines came and took him over and then hanged him the following day. But the Harper's Ferry city, the town, it was part of Virginia back then during the war. And when Virginia seceded, so Harper's Ferry is it was just such an economical town because there were two rivers. There was the Potomac River and then the Shenandoah River. And so there was just all of this water power, and the C&O Canal and the B&O Railroad were actually competing as to who could get to, I believe it was Ohio, the Ohio River Valley, the fastest. The railroad won. But during the war, when Virginia seceded, it was a huge clash between the Unions and Confederates. They switched hands 8 times. So this town switched hands 8 times during the war. Oh my goodness gracious. Also, Harper's Ferry was a very bad place for floods. It would constantly be flooded, and they would have to rebuild and all of that. So this spot right behind us with the little red pebbles is where the Federal Armory used to stand. Another fun fact that we learned is that the song Glory, Glory, Hallelujah was written in honor of John Brown, because it goes, John Brown's body lies moldering in the grave, but his soul goes marching on, and it goes, glory, glory, hallelujah. So that was cool.
Welcome to Virginia.
Today we are at George Washington's Mount Vernon, which is his presidential home and plantation, and it's here near Washington, D.C. It's on the outskirts in Virginia. So this is where George and Martha Washington lived, and George Washington is actually buried here as well.
Welcome to North Carolina.
State number 39. Good morning, travelers.
We're going to the Great Smoky Mountain Railroad. Yay!
Nantahala Forest, and the big rapids that we saw, I think it's called Big Wesser, and you can only go down them if you are a professional and if you've done it before and if you have your own equipment. But this is here in North Carolina where the train took us, and we have our layover. Alphonse and I are here at Great Smoky Mountain National Park, which is the #1 national park in all of America, and it is beautiful. Unfortunately, we weren't able to use our national park pass because the park is free, and you just have to pay $5 for a daily parking pass. So we're about to see some amazing...
That's a bigger step than you think it is.
Some amazing mountain views. Wow.
pretty, pretty. Fun fact for you viewers. Do you know why the Smoky Mountains are smoky? It's because of all the evaporation of the water off the plants and trees. All right, so we stayed at the cutaway somewhere here in Cherokee. And then we took this road up to the Oconaluftee Visitor Center. And then we drove all the way up. So now we're here at the Newfound Gap. And we were in two places at once, both North Carolina and Tennessee. And now we're gonna go back down the mountain and probably this way over to Hendersonville in North Carolina for our harvest host.
Yay, made South Carolina.
Yay, state number 40. All right, you travelers, this is state number 41 out of 48, the great state of Georgia. Well, hello there, travelers. So we have been traveling all over and killing time in the South Carolina, Georgia area. We just had to get a hotel. We were at the Hampton Inn and Suites because we had an ant invasion. But thankfully, there are no ants that we can see. And we are on our way to Charleston to see my friend Kendall. She and I used to teach together, and I haven't seen her in a long time. It's been a while since we've given an update, at least in our time. In the video, it's probably been 2 seconds. But we have been just lollygagging around the deep south area. We had to kill time until we got to see my friend Tara in Columbia, South Carolina. And then we had to wait for my friend Kendall to get back from her cruise to go to Charleston. So we've just been in Georgia, South Carolina, and this week we've been in Florida. We went to go see Sean, hi Sean, in Jacksonville, and my friend Emily and her baby on the way, little Juniper. And so we've just been hanging out in Jacksonville. We stayed at a really awesome Harvest Host last night where we played the Jungle Pool game. Go check it out if you haven't played it. It is quite chaotic. Not for the light at heart. And now we're on our way. We're just gonna keep going through the Florida Panhandle. We were just gonna hang out in the deep south in Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, all that until we went to Oklahoma. But it is too hot. Too hot. So we're zipping through the southern states. So we have Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas, Missouri, and Kansas left. So we have 6 states left. So we're going to zip through them up to Kansas because the weather up there is actually pretty temperate. So we'll either hang out there in Kansas or we'll even drive over to Colorado Springs because the high is like 79. And we'll go there. So stay tuned. Today we're going to go see the battleship. We're not quite sure if we're going to go in or if we're just going to park and walk around it, just depending on heat and how we feel about leaving Penny in the bus. But we're going to state number, I think it's 43, Alabama.
Alphonse and I are here in Alabama at the USS Alabama. And we don't know much about it, so we're gonna go learn and explore. This black plane right here, is it the short one or is it the long one too?
Just one.
Oh, oh, it is all one plane. Wow. This is called the Blackbird. There's only a few ever made, and it is the fastest plane ever made, and it can go over 1,000 miles? Oh, thousands of miles an hour.
Number 44, the great state of Mississippi.
Welcome to Mississippi.
Yay! Birthplace of America's music. Okie dokie, we are entering the town of Mize, Mississippi. There's the city sign. And this is the town that was named after my grandpa. His last name is Mize. So Grandpa, if you're watching, this is for you. Okay, we're coming up on the main street here. I guess we can get gas first.
Take the second left onto Mississippi 28 West, then turn right onto Maple Street.
Okay. We've gotten gas. Oh, now wait for Mr. Truck. Move along there, Mr. Truck. Oh, and the lawnmower. Okay. So this brick building right there, the red one, that's the post office. This one right in front of us is called Off the Hook. Looks like just a little restaurant. You got some houses. Very, very run down houses. Oh, what's on the left? Truck sales.
Looks like it was a former train depot.
Oh, the good old Dollar General. Alright, that was Mize. We hope you enjoyed your little detour through the tiny, tiny town of Mize, Mississippi. So today Alphonse and I are at the city of Vicksburg, and we're at the Vicksburg Memorial Battlefield. And the Battle of Vicksburg was part of the Civil War in 1863, and it was between the Union and the Confederate armies. And what was his name? Grant. Ulysses S. Grant marched against General Pemberton. The battle was between May 19th, 1863 to July 4th, 1863. And I believe that all of the advances that the Union tried to do against the Confederate soldiers failed, but the Confederates ended up surrendering because of disease and that they were just low on supplies. But it was a 47-day siege, and it was a huge turning point in the Civil War. This was also the exact same time that the Union won Gettysburg.
standing right now is one of the very few spots where you can clearly see the Confederate side. So that monument right there is a Confederate stronghold, and these cannons lined up here are all aiming there. Same for these cannons. They're all aiming over there. So if you can see, that little white house right there is Shirley's house, and that was here before the war began. The Confederate stronghold, I believe. So this line right here, right there, is part of a trench. You can see. So the Union, this was called Ewing's Approach. It was the Union trying to attack and advance upon the Confederate soldiers. And it was a failed attack, but they came down Graveyard Road and trying to approach and take over the Confederates. All right, we're in Confederate territory now. So all the signs are now red instead of blue. There's the Arkansas monument. There's the Texas monument. And all the plaques behind it really just tell the story of this battle on the Confederate side. And that monument over there is the Mississippi monument. That is the Texas monument. We were mistaken earlier. What we thought was Texas was actually Pemberton's circle. So that raised thing of ground is Fort Garrett. That's the one of the high points for the Confederate lines. But all of these plains below, Union Trench right there, all of this is Union, and they were shooting up there, and it failed. It was not successful, but they were successful in shooting and killing General Garrett. And this is the last state monument on the auto tour, Iowa. Okie dokie. State number 45 is coming up. Louisiana.
Welcome to Louisiana.
Wow, we
Welcome to Arkansas.
Yay!
Arkansas! So Alphonse and I are here at Hot Springs National Park, what is called Bathhouse Row. This bathhouse behind me, the Lamar Bathhouse, it was built in the 1890s, but then it had to be rebuilt in the 1920s because it was made of timber originally, and due to the hot springs, it rotted all wood within a very short amount of time. So we are going to explore bathhouse room. So here we are in the Quapaw bathhouse. And in each of these little stalls is a bed. So you would take your bath, and then you would go into this room. It's called the pack room. If you needed hot or cold packs, it apparently helped with a lot of body ailments. Then you would go through that door to the cooling room, where you would read or socialize and cool your body down. This is the hydrotherapy room, where you would get sprayed at every angle in the bath. And then over here is actually an electric bath. Yes, they would mix electricity with water. Thankfully there were no known deaths, and it has long been abandoned. And this is the men's side of the bathhouse. Notice how many more stalls there were than the women's. So they actually opened it up so you can see the spring. Fortis Spring 46. So starting in the early 1800s, people started coming to hot springs, and they soon realized that it had therapeutic effects, healing effects, at least the water. And so they would come here for all sorts of ailments. People who had Civil War injuries would come and just to get treated. You guys, today is the day where we have made it to all 48 states, and we will complete our goal in about 6.5-ish months. This is state number 47, Missouri.
Welcome to Missouri.
Woo, there we go. All right, we're about to reach our goal for state number 48, which is Kansas. We saved the best for last.
Welcome to Kansas.
We did a
6.5 months. What, January 30th to August 12th.
Yep.
We are here at Jack Stack Barbecue to celebrate us finishing our goal and our trip. Well, good morning, travelers. It is currently August, oh, it doesn't say, August 17th. And we are just killing time until we hang out with Alphonse's cousins in Oklahoma. But right now we're gonna go up north to Omaha, Nebraska, and we're gonna go to Nebraska Furniture Mart in Nebraska. And then we're gonna drive back down to Kansas City and then down to Tulsa, Oklahoma. Spend there for a week, get a campsite, hang out, do work stuff, and then go on back. For a reliable car.
Alright, today is the effectively end of our trip. We're going to go down Route 66 from Claremore, which is near Tulsa, for y'all that aren't from Oklahoma. Anyway, we're going to go from Tulsa through a town called Stroud. If you've seen the movie Cars, the Rock Cafe inspires part of the movie. Anyways, so we're gonna go down Route 66. Now, parts of it aren't the same roadbed. It's changed quite a bit over time. It originally opened in 1925, and it was effectively just called the Main Street Connector because its job was just to connect towns. But this towns get bypassed. They would change curves because there'd be like a lot of sharp curves. They would kind of smooth out over time. They would change the towns it went to. So it's a lot different. Parts of it that we're gonna drive on are original. Parts of it are not.
And we get to see a blue whale.
Yeah, we get to see a blue whale.
So this is technically our state number 1, but we didn't actually do anything touristy there, so we are now back to state number 1.
But really, it's state 48 technically, because I wouldn't have counted it at the beginning.
I counted it at the beginning because Bluebell was physically in Oklahoma. Ah, the blue
Take the next right. Take to arrive.
There's the whale. Apparently a grandfather made it for his grandkids. And that little thing is a slide. It slides into the water. Oh no, they're gonna get eaten by the whale. No. Oh, cobwebs. Wow, what big teeth you have. This is interesting. Oh, there's 2 slides. There's one there and one over here.
This is the town of Sapulpa.
So this sketchy looking bridge, and also a train bridge there to a lesser degree, is one of the original 1925, probably predates 1925 bridges on Route 66. So this bridge was originally built in the 1921 part of the Ozarks until 1955 when that bridge was built to bypass it. Six.
6 what? Oh, yes. So we are exactly 2 days shy of having traveled for 7 months. So today it is August. What's today?
Oh, they're coming out.
August 27th, and we left on January 29th.
Yeah.
So here's to our next adventure. It is Bluebell's day to be sold. There she goes. Hi, Bluebell. There she goes. Bye.